Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your boy Walterdoom back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror, the horror podcast where we talk about any and everything related to the genre. And I am back. I got my special guest with me. You know, she's been on here many times. I think this is the first time we're actually doing a podcast together, So, yeah, so she came to me, talked about this movie called Antebellum that you guys could check out. If you guys got Amazon Prime, definitely check it out. But you probably want to hear what we got to say first before you check it out. Because you might want to see it, but you might not want to see it after this. But yeah, let me go ahead. You guys can follow her on Instagram, Twitter. She is at Meaganzworld. So let's go ahead and welcome, Meaganzworld to the show.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And there's going to be a lot of spoilers ahead, so probably watch it, but also watch it with caution. So, watch it real quick and then come back and check this out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you guys are one of those people that are like, man, I don't like spoilers, definitely watch it first. Because we're about to drop a lot of gems right now. So, yeah, I myself, I started watching Antebellum because it was like Black Friday and they had it on sale on Prime for like $3.99. And I was like, I gotta watch this movie because I know you told me before, Megan, like, oh, you gotta watch Antebellum when it first came out. And, I was kind of weary because I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna get out of this movie right now, at the time it was like $20 and I was like, $20? No, fail.
$20 for a 3-day rental, and I did it because I was just like, hey, there needs to be more Black films. We need to support them as much as we can, because honestly I wasn't sure how successful this is going to be, especially with the pandemic. So it's like, hey, why not? I'm willing to drop $20 for a 3-day rental.
Yeah. I mean, you were better than I was. And I think at the end of the day, I'm glad I didn't spend $20 on this rental.
Not gonna lie, I was actually pretty excited for the film too, so that's why I wanted to drop it.
I was excited for the film also. I really did want to see this movie when it was coming out in theaters. I was set to possibly go see it if things were to get better or what have you. But things didn't really get better. And when I heard about this movie, I was like, oh, well, I guess this movie is getting pushed back. Because initially, this movie was going to get pushed back to next year.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, Lionsgate, they decided to release this film. I'm not surprised that they did this now. Okay. Well, I know I'm kind of talking in circles for some people. They're for those that didn't see it, let's talk about what this movie is about. So basically, if you guys haven't seen Antebellum, basically it stars Janelle Monáe, and I mean there's a bunch of other people that are in it that I really don't know their name. Honestly, I have never seen their movies before, but it stars Janelle Monáe. Gabourey Sidibe is in there also, but she has a minor role. So if you guys are a fan of her, she's in the film too. But the film is mainly focused on Janelle Monáe, and she plays this character named Veronica, who's this Black educated writer. And I guess I don't want to say she's a political figure, but she's just more of I want to say
kind of like a social commentary person.
Yeah, she's more of that. And what ends up happening is that the character, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys seen the trailer before, but for me, I'm going to tell you right now, for me, when I saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be some Back to the Future type shit going on, And just from the little teaser trailer with the little creepy girl in the elevator with her, I was just thinking damn, is this going to be some motherfuckers coming from the past and all that? She got to confront these motherfuckers or whatever. I mean, it's supposed to be a horror film, but it has so much sci-fi. I feel like it's about to be happening. Unfortunately, you guys know it wasn't.
That's what I thought too. A sci-fi horror film, definitely kind of like, okay, people from the past are coming to the present, that type of thing, or maybe like Ghost. I was thinking like that, more paranormal type of shit. But then what scene always, because I went to see this when, well, I didn't go to see this, but I saw the trailer when I went to see Us. And then there is that shot of like the airplane going over the plantation, and all the enslaved people looking up. And I was like, okay, now that confuses me. So I was like, it must not be about that.
Yeah, let's just say the trailer, if you guys seen it, it pretty much gives away the film, and you have to think about it as simple as possible. Like, and here's where the spoiler comes in. She is not time traveling at all, but she is stuck on a plantation of a reenactment plantation at that. And basically she's being held captive by some really racist people that are basically full-fledged reenacting all of the Southern slavery bullshit, basically.
Yeah, but it's also like it's framed as a Civil War reenactment thing, you know. What is it called? It's like Antebellum's premier Civil War reenactment place, or whatever the heck. Yeah, so that's messed
up. Yeah. Here's the thing. I know when this movie came out, it's literally during the time of like everything that was happening, like the George Floyd situation. Black-owned businesses were being heavily promoted until like the month afterwards, when where it wasn't a trend anymore. And I feel like this movie does speak a lot about what's going on for what's happening to today. You know, well, that's happening till this day, I should say. And I feel like its most importance, I feel like it has, is just like its ideology on how the past is never really gone. Like the ghost of the past still lives within today, because we're not confronting it or trying to discuss or even like trying to heal from it. So I don't know what your take on the movie was for yourself.
I think it was that, definitely that. It was just more of like, there's that quote in the beginning, I forgot to write it down, but it's just basically saying like, I think this is what it is, the past is never the past, in fact it's like the present, or something like that.
Yeah, the past never ends, or it never ends, or something like that.
But yeah, so that is really true, and I think that was kind of the overall plot. And then you see throughout the script, or throughout the movie rather, that they always mention about time and things like that. So it's just mostly talking about that. And then like there's this one line where Janelle Monáe's character Veronica says like, her grandmother or someone said that our ancestors communicate with us through our dreams. And that's why I was kind of thinking, oh, okay, is this a dream sequence, or is like, you know, Veronica actually her ancestor that looks identical to her? Because I've seen some movies that do that type of thing like that. But I thought that was really prevalent, and I think that was kind of the overall theme mixed in with all these other themes going into the plot.
Yeah, well, the overall theme of the film was supposed to be about how the past is never really gone. Now, if you're a viewer watching this for the first time, which I was, you know, a couple of days ago, or actually last week, I was like really confused as hell to like what was about to happen, because this movie is so cluttered with a lot of concepts that they're trying to say in the film. What were some of the concepts that you were getting from it that they were just cluttering up, that we're just gonna declutter right now, you know, for people that are listening?
Yeah. One of the first things I got from my first viewing was it brings the realities of slavery to the forefront. Whereas it's kind of like, we've seen a lot of movies about slavery, and it's, you know, of course there's a lot of terrifying scenes. The ones I think about the most is, you know, 12 Years a Slave, that type of thing. And you kind of get that 12 Years a Slave plot, you know, someone who, you know, was tricked into slavery. And that was, I believe that was, you know, something that really happened, you know, the 12 Years a Slave movie, but it brings it into a modern time, like literally. And it's just kind of like, okay, this stuff could happen. And another theme that I caught from this was that idea of just like, this could still very much happen. One of the things I was also thinking about was that a whole idea of, you know, people saying, oh, well, I'm not my ancestors, we're not our ancestors. And of course, this is very insulting, because yes, we are our ancestors, because they were living full-fledged lives before they were enslaved, you know, whether it be like from their lives in Africa or wherever, to their life being captured, you know, from freedom and having to go down to the South, or just even being born into slavery and then trying to escape from it, or trying to simply survive.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that could also be said for, you know, the white folks saying, well, I'm not my ancestors. But at the same time, there could still be the ideology, and people just don't necessarily change because of the times. There's still that same mindset. There's still people that want to do those type of things. It just happens in a different time period.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to go back to what you were saying about like the concept of slavery. Yeah, it really does talk about the concept, especially when we see like Janelle Monáe's character literally getting kidnapped, being taken into the plantation. They literally strip her of like all her clothes that she had before, like her worldly clothes, and literally put her in like all these rags that they had like in the plantation. And then like they changed her name to something else. Like, you know, she no longer could claim her name, claim her memories of where she was before, and just like the world that she used to live. Like she was literally forced into living this world where all she had to do was please these people, these slave owners, majority of the time. And this movie really does kind of like give you the ideology of what slavery used to look like, without actually going into too much of the gruesome parts, which I feel like they left out some gruesome stuff.
They did, but they also showed a lot of gruesome parts too. Like, one thing that I haven't seen in movies, that, well, at least movies that I've seen about regarding slavery, is that how they were treated like cattle. Like that,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
never seen that cinematically. So like in the intro where you know, the guy is trying to escape with his girlfriend or partner or whatever, and he's like literally chained up like a bull or something, you know, like a cow or like
Yeah,
whatever, you know, with the bells and stuff. I've never seen that on film. And then how, you know, they're tying her up with a rope and stuff like that. You always see them being like whipped or branded or something like that, but you never actually see, you know. And then like the way that you know, the folks are like looking at them and just kind of like analyzing them, like touching their hair and stuff like that, and just like, you know, just kind of like, oh, you know, she has pretty hair, and looking at her facial features and stuff like that, like, you know, like they're animals.
yeah,
I've never seen that in film before, so I'm glad that at least was shown, because that was something that happened, because, you know, enslaved people were seen as property. They were seen as cattle. That's, you know,
yeah.
that's what it was.
I don't know if you ever seen the movie Roots or Amistad.
I've it's been a year since I've seen those movies, though.
Okay, yeah.
Admittedly. Admittedly, it's been years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember because I had a class when I was in middle school, and my teacher actually showed us Roots, and we saw a lot of Roots.
Oh
And
yeah, I've seen Roots before. Yeah, it's just been a while, but yeah, I've seen Roots, and I yeah, it's been like since I was pretty young, since Amistad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when I used to watch Roots, it was gruesome. It was definitely gruesome for like something that was, I guess, supposedly like a mini TV series or what have you. So I was like, man, that's some fucked up shit, because I had
Mm-hmm.
this was probably like my first introduction to knowing about slavery in general. Like, I didn't even know about it as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never, because when I was a kid, I went to I went to a Catholic school and they didn't teach us any of that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was a totally different world right there. And then when I did go to public school, I mean, I was in the 5th grade, you know, at a public school, and they didn't really tell us about anything about slavery or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The most I remember from 5th grade was the DARE programs, telling us to not do drugs and do drinks and alcohol and stuff like that. I mean, I'm glad to see that DARE program really did help this, climate out, because yeah, people are really not doing drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
But yeah, for Antebellum, I'm glad that they were able to like put out there some of the concepts of like the whole idea of how like people used to get taken away, kidnapped, and brought into like this plantation where they didn't even know each other. Like, these people had to like really like make friends with each other or trying to find some way to communicate with each other.
Exactly, because they couldn't communicate. And that was one thing too, what that was pretty interesting, is I've never seen cinematically about like the rules, like, hey, you cannot talk to each other, like you can't speak
Oh
unless spoken to,
yeah.
that type of stuff too. And like, as far as for me, like my parents, they taught me about slavery and stuff. And I, my dad, I come from a military family. My dad was in the military, and then so we used to travel a lot, and I used to love going to museums. I still love going to museums, and we would go to African American history museums, and they would, talk about that stuff. So that's how I learned about slavery. But was I taught in school, like to graphic detail? No, actually, I was the person in class that actually, Miss So and So, my white teacher, it happened like this, and all the kids would be shook. I was that kid, because I was just like,
yeah.
that was kind of the thing too. So I'm glad, and to this day, like adults don't even know about everything too, or they might even still think this is a just a cinematic representation of everything too, which is sad. But this is stuff that actually happened in history.
Yeah, and it's a lot worse than what Antebellum.
It's a lot worse than what's shown in Antebellum. Way worse.
And I would say Antebellum is literally the white slavery movie. That's a little controversial, but what I mean is like it gets pretty graphic, but it's also visually pleasing to where you're not too uncomfortable.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're more visually uncomfortable with the things that are not directly related to slavery, but just the overall concepts too, because I skipped through a lot of parts that I just felt like personally uncomfortable with too, that were just like, I don't know. I mean, well, in general, the themes are very uncomfortable, but of course I still have to watch this movie. But it's just spoiler alert, there's a scene where someone gets captured and she's pregnant and she gets kicked by one of the soldiers and stuff. I couldn't watch that scene. And following that, she has a miscarriage. I couldn't watch that. So it was that type of stuff that was like very gruesome and scary, but it's just like, you've seen that in other films not dealing with slavery too, and I think that's just kind of an overall thing.
Yeah, see, we'll touch base on that a little bit later, because I want to talk about the significance of like certain symbolisms in the movie.
Yeah.
But what I feel like that the movie was missing, that they didn't put out there, was like, people being hanged, because slaves were being hanged as punishment. It was literally my first time seeing that some of the slaves were actually being burned in like these old burn houses and what have you.
Yeah.
I mean, even though we didn't see it, it's obviously being assumed that they're being burned in these burn houses and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see anybody get whipped or anything like that, because obviously slaves got whipped a lot. A lot.
Yeah, well, in the first scene where, with Veronica, where she first escaped, she does get whipped a little bit, but not like on the whipping post.
Yeah, not on the whipping post. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was a little like, I know in that scene it's supposed to symbolize the whipping, but again, it was a little too tamed. Like, it was
Yeah.
really a tamed whipping, and the whippings were never tamed like that. They were very gruesome. They were very nasty and very
Mm-hmm.
violent. Um, I'm pretty sure everybody have seen, or if you have not seen, the picture of the slave that
Mm-hmm.
has the whipping marks on his back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very instrumental picture to really see, and I'm advising for those that haven't seen it, go see it, because that's the real visual markings of what slavery did to Black people.
Yep.
Honestly. But as much as I want to talk about this, I want to kind of move forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another thing that I've noticed as we're talking about deconstructing decluttering the concept, there is a lot of like white privilege versus Black excellence in the movie, where like the white privilege, it's like no matter where the white people are, no matter how much education level they have or what kind of pull they have, they manage to still get some type of privilege going on, and they're still able to just do whatever they want. Like the one scene that I saw that was like very white privilege was when what's her name? Elizabeth, the white girl that was I guess the daughter of the colonel and what have you. She was able to go to Veronica's room with no type of questioning involved to her. Like, she was just like, "Oh shoot, I forgot my key card in my room." And they just let her in Veronica's room. No questions, no nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing about that too that I realized after this, because I've watched it 3 times. This most recent time was my third viewing,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that Veronica's room didn't even need a key card. It's just like literally a password, like a door code.
Mm.
So that whole key card thing was bullshit that the maid should have known, but of course, the white privilege. You
You know what?
know,
I didn't even notice it was a code that you need to put in.
it was a code, yes.
Oh man, I need to watch this again.
I'm missing you off a lot more, right?
Yeah. So the maid, she just was like, "Hey, go right in, go right in. Hey, white lady, like you can go in there. I trust you." But see that, like, honestly, that goes back to like my story when, I don't know if you remember, but when we were talking about racist events that has happened to us in our lives before, and I was talking about what
Yeah,
happened to me in an Apple store.
yeah.
I'm going in, Black dude with another Black dude walking in, two Black people together. Oh no, this can't be right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going in to just buy a computer, but the person that's working there doesn't believe that I'm trying to buy a computer. He's just like, and even with me telling him like, "Hey, I'm trying to get a computer," and he's just like, "Oh yeah, blah blah, this that, and the other," just like talking about all this random stuff. And it's just like, at the end, it was like, okay, so I guess I'm not buying a computer from here. Like, what's going
Yeah.
on? you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just like, it's literally like that situation right there. Like,
Exactly.
like even with when Veronica and all her girls, they go to that restaurant. The first place they want to seat them, they want to sit them in the corner of the
In the corner
restaurant.
by the kitchen. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a nice restaurant. Like, that scene was really impactful because one thing that I really like about it, because it's Veronica, her two girls, one is one is white, one is black. And then the white girl, she tries to use her privilege saying like, oh, like, I think, you know, my friend means, and, you know, Gabrielle Senebek's character, she's like, no, 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 Becky, and I'm her name was Rebecca, like, no, Becky, you're sitting us right here. Like, I just love that scene because it just further proves, like, that's one of the great things I like about this movie, is that it proves, like, okay, we don't need a white savior. And I think, like, her friend had a slight white savior complex, or just kind of, like, a little bit ignorant to the fact, I think her name is Sarah. Yeah, her name is Sarah. To, like, she first was kind of ignorant to her privilege, but also knew her privilege at the same time, because she's like, what's her name? I think her name was Dawn. Yeah. So Gabrielle Senebek's character, Dawn, was just kind of like, oh, no, this is not going to work. And then, you know, Sarah was just like, oh, no, she means. And then, you know, Dawn was just like, no, you're sitting us here. We're having champagne. We're having the most expensive champagne, you know, that type of stuff, you know, really taking charge. And I think, like, you know, in certain situations, like, as the Black folks, we are afraid to take charge like that, but we truly do need to take charge and not be pushed around and things like that, and not let our white counterparts or white friends try to take the lead and use their privilege in that way. So I thought that was a powerful scene, you know, even though it was pretty short.
Yeah, it also did highlight, like, how even when they were in the restaurant, even how, like, the waiters, they were treating them like with how they were ordering their drinks. You know, the first thing he offers them is prosecco, you know.
Yeah.
And then Veronica, her character was like, no, we're not ordering that. We're ordering this drink, like, you know, the more expensive top shelf drink, you know, the top shelf champagne and all that. So, yeah, I mean, as much as I like to say, like, you know, this is a scene that's pretty good. I guess in a way it does stick to the concept, because I want to say it kind of, like, went away from the concept of the movie a little bit.
That's true. That is true, though. That is true. Yeah.
But I feel like also it was definitely something that was essential, because, again, like, this movie is about the past and how it doesn't die, and just, like, you know, it never really moves forward. Like, we need to move forward in a way of healing, you know, and understanding. So it kind of shows, like, yeah, even though we are no longer in this racist time where, you know, Black folks is coming to the white people, you know, serving them chicken and everything like that, doing a little dance for them and sing them a little song and all that, you know. Yeah, like, they just still treat us wrong just for, like, oh, well, a certain mindset, or, like, what's the word I want to look for? It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't even think of it right now. Damn, I really had it on the tip of my tongue. I can't even think of it now. But either way, yeah, they have a certain, like, I guess, shit, now I'm getting stuck. Oh, God. But yeah, they just, like, it's just literally, like, a certain mindset that they think of, like, they perceive us some kind of way. They have a certain perception. That's what I was thinking of. So they have, like, this certain, it shows that they have this kind of, like, certain perception of us. And it's like, yeah, well, just because you listen to a bunch of rap songs doesn't mean, like, you know, Black people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the truest thing too. It's just kind of like, oh, they appreciate our culture, appreciate, like, our music, our style, all that stuff, but not actually appreciate us as people, and, you know, where they think of it, you know. It's just kind of like, or you're like the model minority. It's just kind of like, okay, you're staying away from it because you have more white qualities than Black qualities. It's just like this weird kind of thing too. And it's just kind of like, it's not seeing people as people, not seeing them for their successes. And in fact, another theme that's brought up in this is actually not seeing, you know, the people that, you know, that captured, you know, the Black folks in this. They see their success, especially Veronica, like, you know, Elizabeth sees Veronica's success. In fact, hates her success because she hates that to see a Black woman in success. So hence she wants to capture her and all this stuff. But she even hates it because because Veronica is her father's favorite slave too, and she even hates that even more. Allegedly, it's a weird ending. We'll talk about that later. But,
yeah.
But it's assumed, I guess, that she hates that as well, and hates that she had to anyway. But I digress. I'm going a little bit too forward. But
yeah.
you know, it's just like either way, we're not going to make people with that mindset, whether it be microaggressions or even advertent racism, that is just like, no, these people need to be picking cotton in the field, like that type of thing. Either way, they're not going to see us as human, or at least the same level, you know. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Another thing, last one, and it does tie into the white privilege and Black excellence and just everything we've been talking about in general, but the visibility of racists. So I don't know if you caught the one line where the dad says, or the colonel, I should say, you know, he's like, well, it doesn't end here. We're everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah.
That shit was the realest shit you could hear in this movie.
That was the realest shit because, dude, like, and actually I'm gonna refer to another movie that does this a lot better, is like, you know, like Get Out. You know?
Yeah.
Because they are the woke white people. They're the white people that would have voted for Obama a third term, but at the same time, they are stealing the talents of Black folks. They are essentially appropriating their culture and stuff like that, and what makes them unique and talented. They just want to take away and hide things, and also fetishize and all this other different stuff too. So, but yeah, that was the realest shit in the movie. And like, as many, great quotes that they tried to make, that was a good line.
that literally was
that's the truest shit ever. It's just like, you cannot tell who's racist until you talk to them, spend some time with them. But even with that too, you still don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Because some people could be one way in front of your face, and the next saying all this type of racist stuff, you know, behind your back. You never know. You never know at all. Like, I have a story time too, like a really quick story time, but I was, this is back when I was 16, I was working in the fitting room, stuff like that. There's two white ladies that came in, and, I was, giving the best customer service, talking the way I do, all this other stuff. And I leave the room, I put their stuff in the fitting room. They think I leave the room. And then I heard one of them call me an Oreo. And I was just like, okay. Like, supposed to be behind my back, and so it's just kind of
why? It's because you didn't go out all full Shaniqua, like, hey bitch, what you want, huh? What you need? Right? What you need? Like,
yeah, it's that type of shit. And so I was just like, oh, so it's that type of stuff. They try to hide it, and then they think I'm gone, and then they say that racist stuff towards each other from fitting room to fitting room because they were two different rooms. So, example of blatant racism that.
But see, like, honestly, like, to me, that doesn't say enough about them being racist. It's just more of a mindset. Like, it's a
mindset. Exactly.
It's literally what they're taught, is what they learn, and it's what they pretty much grew up on. And it's funny because I had a conversation with my homeboy about this, about like racism and human rights and things like that. And I was like, letting him know, like, like, most racists, they have human rights, but it's like, they're not gonna like let you know they're racist, because if somebody finds out they're racist, that's when shit hits the fan,
Exactly. So it's more so that stuff that's kind of like, I'm not racist, but insert racist thing, or insert stereotype, that type of thing. Yeah. But I'm not racist.
Oh yeah. Well, see, this it's like,
of course not. I'm not racist. My babysitter is Black. Or
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not racist. My grandson is half black or whatever the hell, the type
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah. Like, okay, before we got on the podcast, well, before
Yeah.
we started recording, I was telling you about what happened to me. And if, any of my listeners listen to my Wednesday show with the timekeeper, Doom Time on stereo, by the way. Just a little plug right now. 11 to 1 for anyone that doesn't know the time. It's a live stream, so check us out. But anyway, long story short, we got into like a little altercation where some people try to say that we were being homophobic, but then someone came in and was being straight up racist. Now, the homophobic shit did not happen by us at all. I don't know where that shit came about, where they were just like, well, you're being homophobic to our YouTube savior and we praise this guy and what have you. But then it was like, well, this person just posted up monkey sounds towards us three times. And then they tried to claim like, oh, well, and this is where the excuses come in, oh, well, I'm mixed. I'm part black. It was like, bitch, where? I seen the pictures. I don't believe you. You need more people, as Jay-Z would say. Then it was like, oh, well, you know what? I was trying to like play these sounds, but my computer started playing all the sounds, and then it went straight to the monkey sounds, and it was just like, dude, you have no excuse. Like you got your shit found out. Like you have been exposed for being a racist. And shouts out to the people that kind of pressed this person too for exposing that.
Yes.
It's funny because people are still going in their timeline saying like, weren't you racist like 2 days ago?
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
It's hilarious.
That stuff does not die. I'm telling you. Whatever's on the internet does not die.
Oh, no.
It's the past. Okay.
It's the past. It's the past.
Roll the back.
Literally. I think Antebellum has like some parallels with like the internet also on like how nothing really dies. Like,
they probably didn't think of that too, but they probably also was like, let's squeeze that in. No.
Yeah. I mean, with all the
they probably would have
concepts,
added more phone stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah. But with all that cluttered concept, I mean, I'm surprised they didn't put the internet stuff in there.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Is there anything else you want to add about the concepts?
Oh, yes, I do want to add a little bit about this too. And this is, I may or may not be going a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm going to mention this. Okay, I feel like there was something shoehorned at the very end in the villain speech about white feminism. And here's why. So Elizabeth has this whole speech at the end. It's supposed to be a villain speech about her motives, all this other stuff. We don't get that at the end. We basically get how she hates Veronica because of the stuff I said earlier and stuff like that. And then there's this line in there that's like, oh, well, a woman always has to clean up a man's job, that type of stuff. And what I mean by like white feminism, I'm not talking about intersectional feminism as in like, believing basically what Veronica is doing, but believing in, how equality for both sex, gender, class, race, all that. And, but with white feminism, it's just kind of like, oh, women are above everything. White women are above everything. We control all that stuff. That's what I mean by white feminist. Not white, that type of thing. Not by race, that type of thing. Just to put that out there, disclaimer. So I think, so there was kind of a hint about that a little bit because, she's taking the reins. She wants to. You kind of see her trying to take control throughout the movie, being, the head bitch in charge, and she's like the the last villain that gets killed in the film, you know, and that's kind of like that triumphant kill. So you see her really truly being the big baddie of this entire thing. She's the first person, actually, no, she's the second person you see, because you see her daughter walk, you know, in the movie and stuff, in the field and stuff. But anyway, so I think they tried to get into that, but it was kind of done very poorly and very unsuccessfully. And you still don't know how this place came to be. You do not know why they're doing what they're doing, all that other stuff.
Okay, so. what is your idea? How do you think it came about? What's your theory?
Honestly, I haven't had to think about that, because I was trying to figure out that damn villain speech. Because that was said, and I was talking to you about this earlier, but I'm going to say this to the viewers out there, the listeners, that it just seems like a college film class villain speech that someone got like probably a B+, A- on at best. And it's just like, oh, okay, I get that. She, you know, she's talking about this, all this other stuff. Oh, yeah, that's really smart, da, da, da. But it just was so muddled, because it still doesn't really, you don't really get why they did that. But to answer your question, Walt, I think probably, since they have all that land and all that property, they're probably coming from old money, and they basically recreated that place because that's what their ancestors did. You know, their ancestors were slave owners, and they're like, hey, let's make a Civil War reenactment place. And I was actually looking at some trivia, and the word antebellum means before the war. So it's just kind of like, okay, let's talk about the glory before the war, all this other stuff, the romanticizing of the Civil War or pre-Civil War era, which a lot of people tend to do, and actually a lot of plantations in the South, especially in Louisiana, tend to do. And barely talk about slavery, but they probably, in the world of the film, they wanted to take it the next level and actually have slave, you know, it just have, you know, enslaved people do the whole capture fantasy, all that stuff, get their messed up friends to be hired on, you know. It's like, hey, you could live out your, you know, all this other stuff. You want to take advantage of, you know, this woman, blah, 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 you could do that. You know, that type of thing. Almost like messed up, even more messed up Westworld of sorts, you know? That type of thing.
Yeah, well, it kind of ties in. It kind of ties into everything that we've been talking about, you know, and I feel like it's the same thing. Also, like, these are people that came into old money, you know, money that's like, you know, that they're probably like the top 1%, you know, that, you know, you can't really knock off too much, you know, because they have ways of paying people off. And I mean, honestly speaking, I feel like that reenactment camp that they were at, it's like either it's always been there and they just restructured it as like a Civil War antebellum recreation park, or they use that reenactment setup to kind of hide what they were really doing.
I think it's a little bit of both, because I noticed another thing I noticed too with my most recent time watching this is that when Veronica is leaving the area where, you know, the plantation is, it says no trespassing. So that's an area that no one is supposed to see except a certain type of people. And I think the people that are in this reenactment are actually actors. I don't think it's like guests that are actually pretending to, because at first I thought it was like, you know, messed up guests, you know, but I think it's just honestly hired actors.
Yeah, the people that are
really
in the
disgusting
area.
Yes, and that's kind of like, you know, they do their whole reenactment thing, you know, in front of all the people, all the spectators, you know, that come and pay the money. But then afterwards, they do all this messed up stuff, and that's almost like their playground, you know. I feel like it's kind of like that.
I think it's more like the people that are the Confederates in the movie.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is
because we didn't see nobody. We didn't see
Yeah.
nobody from the union, you know?
You did not. So I don't, you know, it's a complicated world this is, because it's just like, I know I still have more questions even though I'm in, you know, coming up with conclusions.
That's how I felt too. That's how I felt. I was like, I feel like I got more questions than like answers from this movie right now.
Yeah, and then, okay, so there's that scene when they kill the Union soldier. Do you think they actually killed a Union person, or was that fake?
That was fake. That was fake. I think it
Okay.
was fake. But
Uh-huh.
on my second watch, I realized they were hinting on what was going on, because if you notice, like I don't remember where this was, but it was like either before like Kiersey Clemens' character comes into play, or I don't know, I don't remember where. But either way, you see like everybody that's working in the fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they hear all these gunshots that are happening.
Yeah.
Now at first, when I first watched it, I was like, oh shit, they killing people like in this film, like for real, like a war. But
Mm-hmm.
then second watch, I realized, nah, they're not killing nobody. They're literally like not that far away from the reenactment camp, like
Yeah.
from the whole area. Like they're literally not far from civilization. And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminds me of like, to kind of like, I guess, take it a step further. I'm sorry, I'm getting like so tongue tied.
Mm-hmm.
um, it reminds me of like how like kids get kidnapped, or like people get kidnapped in general, or abducted. And like most of the time, these people are like earshot away from civilizations, but
Yeah.
they're literally like taken into like a place that like they don't know where they're at, and they're just like confused, like, okay, where the hell am I? You know,
Exactly.
and you get
Mm-hmm.
like these people, the abductors, they get like all this traffic that comes through their house and everything, and people are just like not knowing what's going on, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just like, once when they hear on the news, like, yeah, so and so abducted like 7 kids over the years of like 20 years and stuff like that, and buried their bones in the backyard. I'm referring to like a real like case
Yeah.
that happened. I don't know if you
Uh-huh.
remember this one, but yeah, like people are shocked, like, well, I didn't know this person was doing that. Like
It,
I
it's
went to the
it's an
house all the
interesting.
time.
Exactly, it's that hidden thing. It's that hidden in plain sight thing too. And then kind of going back to what I said earlier about the whole mindset is like, oh yeah, we're not our ancestors, we're not our ancestors type of thing, like too, or like that idea, like, okay, the people that were enslaved were complacent, all that other stuff. But you got to understand, like, these folks were being abused both physically, emotionally, and mentally too. So
Mhm.
they felt like, those that did not escape felt like they just couldn't, at all, because they were like, okay, well, I want to survive, I want to live, I want to do this. I don't understand, even though they could probably easily do it, but it was a
Mhm.
mindset thing because they were getting abused. So, and
Mhm.
that's a trickery of the whole thing too. And it's just like and since it was so institutionalized, like, okay, this is how it is, slavery is legal, all this other stuff too, it's just kind of like nothing you could do about it. And then that's kind of, that's why everyone, or at least in certain areas, subscribe to this idea because it was so normalized. So
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That shit is crazy. But
It's really crazy.
I know
Check it out.
I'm so lame. I'm like, yeah, that shit is crazy. Like,
No, it is when you think about that too, because with everything and I'm gonna get really deep on this, but like with different stuff going on, and talking about things that what's racism, what's microaggressions, what's ignorance, all this other stuff. There's
yeah.
different things that are under the umbrella of racism, and we know as a society now that slavery is bad, but we also subscribe to other things such as stereotyping people because that's more normalized, because we think, oh, stereotypes are only funny or they're because they're real or whatever the heck, that type of thing. And we have those perceptions going back full circle about this
Mhm.
too. So once we knock those things down, and that's why we're at this time, it's kind of like, well, why are we canceling everything, why blah 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 blah, well, this is something that happened in the past or even present that's actually problematic. It seems weird right now that we're canceling it, but it just always needed to be that because it's hurting people. It's just now it's in the forefront.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So,
well, I think we got a lot of good ideas put out there about decluttering this movie. So, yeah. We're going to go ahead and take a break real quick. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the symbolisms of this movie, some of the Easter eggs that some people might have not caught if you've watched this movie before, or if you are going to watch this movie. This is some things to kind of look out for or kind of like notice. So yeah, like you should say in a scary movie, I'll be right back. Or we'll be right back, actually. All right, y'all, and we are back, and we are going to go ahead and talk about some symbolism, some Easter eggs to the movie Antebellum, again, with my guest, Meaganzworld. So, what are some Easter eggs that you noticed in this movie?
The first and foremost thing that I noticed from the bat was that the guys that was escaping, the guy's girlfriend or partner, she when she was running away, you see that she has a septum ring, and then I was thinking, or like a septum piercing, and I was just almost kind of like, okay, that wasn't a trend of the time. But then also I was just thinking like, well, maybe she was recently enslaved from Africa, but then I wasn't sure. I was just like, but I don't know if that was actually a thing. And then that was kind of my little indication that this is probably taking place in modern time, because that was modern fashion, modern jewelry. And then another Easter egg from the very beginning too was I noticed when the Confederate soldiers were walking past a group of enslaved women, that were doing the laundry and, putting things in the clothespin or the clothesline, they're saluting them, and then they're just like, they nod, but then they look like terrified too. And almost kind of like, what are we doing here? Kind of like that. So that was one thing that I didn't really look at the, my first viewing, but I noticed my second and third viewing, those little things that happened too. And then another Easter egg that kind of, reveals the world that they were in was when we first meet the character whose name is given, Julia. They talk about where they're from, when she goes into Veronica's room, or not her room, but the cabin that she's staying in, and Veronica, or she says to Veronica, I know you're from Virginia, I'm from North Carolina, what is this? But this really does take place in like times where slavery was. North Carolina wasn't part of the Union, so she would have known what this is. She would have known about slavery, and she wouldn't be free, most likely. So you would know. So that was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. Whereas Veronica, she would be free, because I believe, that Virginia was still part of the Union. So, it was kind of, so unless she was free and then she moved over some way, shape, or form, or just very oblivious of what's going on, she should know.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that make sense? I'm gonna tell you one Easter egg that I caught on my second watch, and that was when they were burning the cotton. So on my first watch, I'm noticing that they're working in the fields and what have you. Now my second watch, when I saw them before they showed the scene of them burning the cotton, I was asking myself, like, well, what are they doing with the cotton? What are they using it for? Like, why are they picking it? Because, they have no use for it. And exactly, the movie showed exactly that. Like, literally, the slaves were just picking the cotton just to burn it because there's no use for it. Like they didn't burn cotton back then. They were actually selling it. That was literally the South's means of actually surviving. You know, that was their source of income. And just to see them burning the cotton like right then and there in front of like, you know, the people that captured them and everything, didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at all. So that was one little Easter egg that I noticed. Another Easter egg that I noticed in this movie, which kind of gave away that like this is taking place in modern times, was when they started singing "Lift Every Voice and Sing," and I noticed this like on the first watch. So I guess they were what, getting ready to go ahead and do their plan, like set their plan in motion about escaping, and when they finally managed to set that plan in motion, the professor, he started like whistling. And when he started whistling, he whistled Lift Every Voice and Sing. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, well, if this is in slave times, was this song even out? I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, yeah, I know, like, you know, what they do is sing Negro spirituals, but I'm pretty sure.
But that wasn't one of them.
Yeah, it wasn't one of them. Like this.
Yeah, and well, you know, we were talking about it, you know, before, you know, we recorded it. It's just like, you have to be a little bit smart and know about history before watching this film.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this stuff will go over your head, you know, or you have to be very observant about a lot of things too.
Yeah.
There are the Easter eggs too, but you have to know a little bit about American history and about the timelines of stuff in order to get a lot of these.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you have to be very observant about. Yeah, because it could definitely go over your head. Honestly, I was just sitting there like watching this movie, and I'm just like, okay, they're telling me they're in slave times, but a lot of this stuff don't seem right. Like nothing is
exactly. A lot of things don't. Yeah, because it was just like another thing too. That I notice, you know, when, you know, they get a new group of people, you know, that were clearly free and all this other stuff, and they're kind of looking around like, what's going on? And first I thought, okay, this is just the process, but you really do see after the second viewing, they're all like, are these people for real? Like, type of thing. Like you see that on their faces, you know, and the different stuff like that, especially with Julia's character, this kind of like going back to what she was saying. And then another Easter egg about Veronica's history was just kind of like, you know, was talking about like, oh, I know you, like, and then Julia mentioned like, oh, you're nothing but a talker. Well, she, you know, she wrote a lot of books. She talks about all this stuff, and she talks about using her voice. And then, you know, in her book and like in her speeches and all that other stuff. But then she said, oh, you have to be quiet. And then that's why Julia was just kind of like, okay, like, forget you, you know, you know, I thought you'd be the one taking us out of this place, you know, that type of thing. So that all makes sense too. That was actually that was not really much of an Easter egg, but more of a foreshadow. Another Easter egg that I noticed this time, I don't know exactly what this symbolizes or not. Maybe I do, but again, this film is very muddled. But that that Elizabeth's daughter and I assume it's a daughter because she mentioned it. Elizabeth's daughter and then Veronica's daughter, Kennedy, they're both wearing yellow dresses. So we see Elizabeth's daughter in the beginning. This is the first character we see. She's skipping down to go to the mansion to meet Elizabeth. And then Kennedy, you know, when we meet her, she gets so excited about, you know, getting to pick out her outfit in the morning. And the next scene when we see her, she's wearing a yellow dress. And then, you know, And then Veronica is like, oh, I love that dress. Romney loves her dress and all this other stuff. So they're both wearing yellow. So I don't know exactly what the yellow is supposed to symbolize, but I think it's a little bit of that duality, because you also see Elizabeth on that Skype call with Veronica, and Elizabeth is like, oh, is that Kennedy over there? I'd love for her to have a play date, with, my daughter. And I think it's just like, it's this weird thing. So I guess it's supposed to juxtapose. It's like, okay, they both have different class and different standards, but we know what Elizabeth's alternative motive is. So kind of like, maybe it was supposed to represent class, because despite of, their similarities in regards to class, there's a difference between race. So I think that's what they're trying to get at, because and then you can also say the same thing about Veronica and Elizabeth, because they both wear red a lot.
Yeah, I was about to also touch base on the fact of the lipstick too, like how even though they're two different people, Elizabeth, who at first says like she can't pull off her lipstick color that she has on the Skype call with her, ends up using her lipstick anyway. And it's just like, I feel like from what I was getting from that is like, not only were they trying to like, I guess, separate each other, but also like it shows like how there is a fetish of like trying to be Black and like in sorts of having like the physicality of Black people, like the big lips, big ass, stuff that's supposed to be like accentuated as Black figures.
Yeah.
But as like seeing the Black person as a person, that's where they fall short at.
Exactly. Yeah. You do kind of notice her making those like off comments too that Veronica just shuts down really quickly. Veronica essentially does see through Elizabeth's bullshit, but you also kind of see and going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's just kind of like the whole thing, oh yeah, we're everywhere and nowhere at the same time, or whatever the general said, or the colonel, or whoever he is. And because it's kind of like, and it also kind of makes me think too, it's like, okay, what are people's intentions? Because I've gotten those compliments like, oh, I love that color, I can never pull it off, it's so great on your skin tone, that type of thing. And I'm just kind of like, okay, like, what is that supposed to mean? That type of thing. Like, is it like really a compliment, or is it like something weird?
Yeah, it's almost a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, this most recent time I'm watching it, I'm just kind of like, well, shit, It made me think of like, it made me kind of truly think about something other than, okay, what is this film trying to say? But kind of like think about something that's happening in my personal life too, or that happens.
Yeah. Another thing that I noticed that's an Easter egg, and it's a funny one too, is when the professor calls the white guy a cracker.
That one, yeah.
That one gives away a lot of the film.
Because, okay, that's what I noticed the first time I was watching it too, because I was like, wait, he said cracker. What? I was like, but they didn't say that back in the day, did they? And then he said cracker as cracker, and I'm just like, wait, that seems a little off. See, that's the thing. You have to know about history to get the Easter eggs.
Yeah. I was like, but that shit was hilarious.
That was hilarious, though. Yes.
Like, you just out of nowhere, he's like, cracker? And the guy's like, what did you say? Oh, man, I couldn't stop laughing when I heard that. I'm like, oh shit, no, don't kill him.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that too. Like, I was kind of like, oh, and then I was like, wait a minute. Like, it's a good scene, but like, and then the bell, because because some crazy shit was happening during that scene too, but
yeah, that was the scene with Julia when she was losing her baby and having the miscarriage.
And to like distract from that. It's just like, so, you know, because, you know, she was screaming in agony because all that stuff, both emotional and physical. And it's just like, and that's why he said that to kind of distract and, you know, what was going on, because, you know, if they scream, talk, do whatever, sneeze, whatever the hell, they're going to get punished. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So
Shit.
dude had to say a white racist slur. I mean, man. But touching base on like back to Julia though, because you mentioned something about her. So I was like doing research about like all the symbolism in this movie, and one thing I did notice was Julia's death, and that is very essential for something that was happening in slavery. You know, a lot of women that were getting raped by their slave masters, they ended up committing suicide. Like they ended up either hanging themselves or, you know, whatever they had to do because they were pregnant by their capturer, and you know they kind of saw death was better than like bringing their child into life like that. You know.
Yeah, that was something I thought about too. And then another thing I kept thinking about is almost like that Killmonger quote from Black Panther. It's just like, when I die, bury me with or not bury me in the ocean, but you know, I think he said bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who rather have drowned instead of living their life in bondage or something like that. Yeah, something on the lines of that. So I was thinking about that when I saw that. You know, it is very sad, but you know, with your research having that more historical context, like that's just wild, you know, thinking about that.
Yeah, because I mean, she really did not see anything good coming out of that whole situation. Like the first time she was there, she was already ready to leave. She was just like, "No, get me the fuck out of here!" Like
exactly. And she was already like, I don't want to bring a child into this. And that was a scene following her losing the baby. So she was like, well, I don't even have my baby anymore, which was probably her only glimmer of hope. You know, it's, you know, it's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna find a way to get out of this. You know, all this other stuff. And she mentioned too briefly, which makes her story even more sad, when she was like in the room with the guy that was acting as a soldier and stuff, and she thought he was nice, but he is not at all.
Yeah,
And
I kind of figured that was gonna go bad when that happened.
I thought, yeah, but she was just like, oh yeah, you're the nicest person I've talked to in a while. So it's like she was even going through some trauma with other men in her life prior to this. So that just makes everything even more sad that she just, you know, just wanted to end it like that, you know, in those circumstances.
Yeah. It's crazy because like kind of going back to decluttering like all the nonsense of this movie. Well, not the nonsense, but just like the muddled messages in this movie. That scene right there with Julia and Daniel, that was right there an Easter egg within itself. You know, because like she was really comfortable with talking to him, but he was kind of like uncomfortable, you know, with the whole situation. Like he wasn't fully embracing what was going on. He wasn't like fully trying to do everything like everyone else in the camp were doing. He was just kind of like, I don't know what to do. Like this is kind of uncomfortable for me. And when
I was thinking about that too, like that was definitely an Easter egg, and it's I agree with you completely on that. And then another thing I kind of thought about, and I'll let you finish your point real quick, but like, because I don't know if I'm gonna go ahead of myself, but you remember the guy in the bar? Here's a little fan theory, that guy might have been Daniel or Daniel's friend, you know, that gave them the drink, because I remember Daniel's friend saying something on the lines of just like, well, she can't say no to you, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, was Daniel the guy in the bar that gave Dawn the drink or sent the drink over her way? And then she shut that shit down because she's like, no, you're not giving me a vodka crayon, all this other stuff. But, you know,
I mean, let's point out that he
that.
gave her a vodka crayon. I mean, come on now. That's like the trashiest drink to give a chick.
It is. And then she was just like, but I guess you're cute, that type of shit. And then you see Veronica kind of look across the table and look at them some type of way. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, I thought she was just, looking at the situation like, oh my gosh, this. But I think my whole thing that wasn't revealed, I think he might have been the guy in the bar.
I think so too. Now that you put it like that, I think so too. Mm-hmm. It looks like I'm gonna be watching it for a third time.
I mean, stature-wise, it doesn't really seem like it, but I'm just saying, but everything's kind of going together that it actually might be him. Yeah. Because they were talking about how cute he was, but the guy just seemed confident in himself,
mm-hmm.
And then seemed like, oh yes, I'm gonna do this. So I was like, either might be him or his friend, but I'm just saying with all those pieces together, it might be him.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing to touch base on, and this is going back to like what we were talking about earlier about when the Colonel was like, well, it doesn't end here. Another Easter egg that is in the movie, apparently, everybody that is like involved with that camp is actually there, like the whole entire time. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the cashier that's like at the hotel that was just like, oh, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
It was the guy at the bar, there's like people in the restaurant that are watching watching Veronica. Like they're everywhere. They were literally like everywhere. Apparently there was like someone that was at the seminar that was with that crew, but they were there too watching her.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to like what we were talking about earlier about the visibility of races out there. It's mm-hmm. like you don't know who's watching you.
Yes, and I think that's so scary about how in this universe of the film, how they tracked every single thing, it's just kind of like, okay, they know the type of room, they know she's gonna be here and there, and I'm just kind of like thinking, this is one thing I wish was revealed in the story, is how they set everything up, because it's just like, and how this woman found out all this information, maybe just because of how she got into her room and all this other stuff, and how she found her and how she knew she was going to be in this hotel, and then the bouquet of cotton and flowers too that was sent over, another Easter egg too that I didn't notice the first time, I noticed the second time. I only noticed it because the second time I watched it with my mom, and my mom was like, that's cotton in there. I was like, they said her cotton. I was just like,
oh, I gotta definitely look at the flowers again.
You do, yeah, but there's cotton and all that other stuff. That's why when she texts her husband, I was like, oh, that's like interesting. I forgot what word she used, but I think she said like artisan or something. I forgot, but she just used the word, and he was just like, I didn't send those to you. But anyway, yeah, there's cotton in there. But yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's another Easter egg. So probably that's how they found out about this stuff, and she's snooping around the room, all this other crazy nonsense. But that's one thing I want to be revealed. Were those people actually working with them or not?
Or I mean, according to like the director's notes that I was reading, apparently they were working with the family, but it's not really revealed in the film, but it's kind of like almost assumed in a way.
I did not assume that.
I'm just saying.
Come on, writers, get together. Okay.
Well, keep in mind, remember when she asked the lady to book a reservation for her, but she didn't ask her for her name?
Yeah. Oh man. That's true.
And then they went to the restaurant and they knew her name.
Aim.
So
Oh,
it
that's
was like,
true.
and on my first watch, I was like, but she didn't give that woman her name. Like, how do they know her name? Like, this is weird.
Oh, wow. That is so true. Oh my goodness. Okay, I didn't catch that. Wow. That's something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they knew, they were watching her and everything.
That is
So,
terrifying. And then another thing too that I thought about, it was like how they set up the Ubers and
oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like that. Okay, that was one thing that I put together this most recent time. I was like, there's two Ubers next to each other. One to take away, the friends and yeah, exactly. How would they? Well, actually, they called up the Uber, but still. But one take over the friend, the other one, whatever. And then their Uber came on later, and then the loud music and stuff. They were jamming out to Lizzo in the other car, and then the other one, the loud weird
I'm surprised you knew it was
disco.
Lizzo because I didn't know it was Lizzo they were playing.
Oh no! When in the other car with the friends, that was Lizzo. But the
Yeah, that's what I'm
other
saying.
one was
Like, I didn't know they were playing Lizzo.
song, Juice. Now I can't listen to Juice the same way because of this movie.
But here's the thing,
Still
though.
a banger. But why do they have to use Juice though?
You know what?
Whatever.
Here's something that will make this scene a little bit inconsistent, just because I take Ubers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not check your phone?
Yeah.
How do you not check your phone to make sure you got the right Uber?
Yeah, because that was another thing that I thought about recently too, because that's just like safety right then and there. And I don't know if it's because they were super distracted, they were so excited about the night, they were taking selfies, all that other stuff, and the guy was just beeping like, "Oh yeah, I'll be right there." But yeah, no, as someone that's also taking Ubers a lot too, you check your phone, you check your ride. Also, it does not happen that fast.
Nah.
So
Like,
I don't know if they were in the restaurant for a little bit, like, oh, our Uber's here, but like, yeah, that is a thing, the lapse in judgment too, because like Veronica would have totally known if her Uber actually arrived.
yeah,
If
for
she
like
was checking the app.
like for somebody that's like hyper aware of like everything, that's
Yeah.
that's a weird way of having a lapse of judgment right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Was it too much of the champagne? And she was just
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
I'm trying to get.
they could have been tipsy or like whatever, but they didn't seem like it. Like, at the very least, I wish there was something like an element like that. Like, they were passing out the champagne and it looked kind of weird, and then it's just like, something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, exactly. Someone being so hyper aware, and then in that moment in time, she's just like, "Oh, what?" Like, no, I have my Uber. It must be a mistake. It's just like, no, no.
no, no.
It's like, oh, can you please turn down the music? No. Gosh. Okay.
Like, I would have been like, wait, I'm in the wrong Uber. Hey, wait, hold up. Time out, motherfucker. Who is you driving?
Yes, exactly. Like, I would have just, I'll let my seat rolled out. Broke a window. I don't know.
Seriously. It's funny because it reminds me of like one time when I was talking to an Uber driver. They've told me like they've had incidents where people like just jumped in and they didn't really check their phone of like what their car was. They were just jumping in an Uber just to be jumping in one. But the Uber driver was the one that was like, "Hey, are you supposed to be in here?" They like,
yeah, I mean, like, that's what someone's supposed to do. They're supposed to like say your name or whatever, and just like, okay, is this your person? Because people, especially when they're like drunk or like whatever, they would jump into anything. Like, oh, a car is there, Uber is there, I see an Uber sticker, I'm gonna just jump in. And that's kind of like, that's why you got to be so hyper aware about stuff like that. That's just a safety thing for everybody. Like, ask like, hey, what's my name? Oh, that's not my name, bye. Like, no,
yeah,
scan, and stuff happens like that. People like get kidnapped and killed or whatever the heck, because they get into the wrong Uber or Lyft. But or what supposedly is one.
yeah.
That same old shit. But yeah.
Yeah. one more thing that I kind of want to bring up was the representation of the butterfly. There's a lot of like the butterfly being used in this film. What do you think it means for you in this film?
Well, and another Easter egg that I noticed is during uh Veronica's seminar is that I noticed the words metamorphosis on the
Mm-hmm.
background. I didn't read all of it. One thing I didn't pause on, I didn't read all of it, but I noticed that was a big word in bold. This was another muddled thing, but for me, I guess it kind of means like, um, it just kind of as a means of escaping, because it's just kind of like she's talking about in her seminar about not being silent, not being complacent, not and being against patriarchy, because she says it's the patriarchal society that's against Black women that makes us not want to speak for ourselves and to speak up. So I think it's like the cocoon itself is patriarchy, but the butterfly itself is Black women, and you have to, be the butterfly. I think that's kind of what it means.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
like I have a similar take, but I think it's more just dealing with like breaking free from like all the old trauma and all the old like ideology that people have. Because I mean, again, like this movie is all about moving forward and breaking free from their past. So,
Mm-hmm.
if a caterpillar wants to become a butterfly, it has to break free from the cocoon. Now, how
Mm-hmm.
could it move forward and become a butterfly if it don't break free from its cocoon? You know,
Mm-hmm.
the cocoon being like the racism, and the caterpillar being like the stubborn racist person that doesn't want to change and that doesn't want to like break free from all those ideologies, everything that they're taught. Because I mean, they feel like they're gonna have like this big existential crisis, which they're not. Once when they
Mm-hmm.
break free from that cocoon of racism and just all those old ideas, they will become this butterfly that will be more understanding, more open to learning about people, and just learning that not Black people aren't cattle.
Yeah,
We
no, that's a good take. I think that was probably the overall message of the film, but I think that's a good take on it. But yeah, no, I think it's probably like a combination of both is probably why
it
the
definitely
butterfly
is.
is as the symbol for everything, because we see it on Veronica's laptop and stuff, and things like that. And also another symbolism is the airplane too. Another Easter egg is like, oh yeah, whenever you see the airplane, no, mommy's coming back home. That's what she tells her
Yeah.
daughter, and the daughter, you know, draws an airplane, and then she ends up, sketching that in the walls of her cabin and stuff like that. And so I think that's another big thing too, and that was in the trailer. um
Hmm.
so it's just kind of like the whole, oh yeah, and on the flowers too it says like welcome to your homecoming type of thing. So
Yeah, I saw Welcome to
Elizabeth,
Homecoming, but it didn't
yeah.
like click with me right away.
So like, I guess in Elizabeth's mind, homecoming is like, no, you're belonging in the field, hence that's why I'm doing the cotton and the flowers and all this other stuff. And then, but Veronica's real homecoming is actually coming home to her daughter, who is the future, and that's kind of what that home thing is, you
Hmm.
know. Um, and then I just thought about this too. This is so stupid, but I was just like Beyonce's homecoming and how she's saying, lift every voice and sing.
Oh God.
Throw that out there because I just thought about that. I was like, I have to mention that.
I didn't think I would get like a
Because
Beyonce
here's
reference.
another one too. Like another playful Easter egg. So when Veronica's doing yoga, she's wearing a Ivy Park yoga set, and that's Beyonce's line for
Oh.
Adidas. So there we go. It's all together.
Oh, I swear this is probably gonna be the last time Beyonce is ever gonna be mentioned on my podcast. Oh man, that's funny. I did not even know that. I did not know that was her line that she was wearing. Honestly, that somehow
because
Beyonce crept into the movie.
Crept into the movie, and then like Beyonce's like, "Hey, you need to sing, lift every voice and sing," you know, and you know, a little cross promotion, Beyonce homecoming, you know, like,
Oh,
and then have the little no. But
she
there we
did
go. It's
have
an Easter egg
homecoming.
nonetheless. It's a stretch, but it's an Easter egg nonetheless.
It's okay. It's okay. You want Beyonce in there. It's okay. You know?
She's in there anyway. They just had to wear her line, you know.
Somehow, some way, I'm gonna sneak Childish Gambino in there. I haven't thought how, but I'm gonna sneak him in there.
This is America. There you go. Don't
there we go.
Now, you know.
Oh man. Is there anything else
there was horses, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I guess if you count all the horses in the film, there might have been 4.
Oh man. Is there anything else you want to add?
I think that was all that I could remember.
I think so too.
That's a good way to end it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming to the show. You know, it's always a pleasure to have you on here. You know, I wish that our buddy Dimey was on. This is the first time, you know, she's not on with us. So if anybody,
but this was still a solid episode, though. Chatting it up.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, even though Dimey, if you're listening, you know you're not with us. Your spirit is with us. You know.
Definitely.
I mean, yeah.
Black Avengers, horror Avengers, of course.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and take one more break, and then when we come back, we're gonna come to the outro. All right, and we are back, and as you guys know, this is the outro, and right now, I will give my guest the floor to just talk about like her project that she is working on. So I know you're doing like a podcast of your own that's supposed to be dropping in a couple of days. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, it's probably already out.
Yes.
But can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so it's called The Sauce Talks. I am dropping it with 2 of my friends. It is Dylan Freddy and Ray Lyons. I'm super excited. It's going to be really fun. We're going to be talking about Black excellence, Black culture, but also having a lot of fun with it. All 3 of us are big blurs, so it's going to have like a little blurred twin, but also still very swaggy, love the sauce, you know. So and we're talking about popular trends too, so it's going to be really fun in that regard.
Okay. That's cool. That's very dope. I can't wait to hear what it sounds like. I mean, I've been watching all the teasers and everything on Instagram, and I'm just like, okay, I can't wait to see it. I don't know, when your co-hosts, they were drinking some hot sauce. They
were drinking hot sauce. So this is the whole thing. So we're doing the dreams trend on TikTok, and Dylan Freddy, he's a skateboarder, so of course he had to jump on that trend. But in order to promote the show, instead of drinking, what was it, like that
the ocean
cranberry juice,
yeah,
it was actually a bottle, I believe it was red hot sauce. Anything for the team, and that was our big promo. So it's gonna be silly. It's gonna be a very silly show, but we're also going to be talking about some serious stuff too. So it's gonna be very awesome. I'm very excited about it. You know, the chemistry is great. You know, my co-hosts are very amazing, and it's gonna be good.
All right. Can you let the audience know where we could catch this show?
Yeah, so we're going to be streaming on Twitch. All of our information is going to be on, most of the information is going to be on Instagram for everything. So Instagram at the Sauce Talks. On TikTok, I believe it's also the Sauce Talks. And we also have Twitter, which is the Sauce Talks Pod. So it's going to be on Twitch. Our Twitch is going to be the Sauce, I think it's the Sauce Media. If I got it wrong, it's going to be in the bio. It's all good. You'll be able to find it. So we're going to be streaming live every Sunday, starting the 13th. So by the time this episode came up, it's already out. And then we're going to be doing edited versions, probably posting around Wednesday, so midweek. So we're going to be posting edited episodes on YouTube.
Okay, that's what's up. That is what's up. So as you know, as always, as you are a regular on here, there's always like the movie suggestions, you know, movie, television, whatever is hot for you, you know, as long as it's horror related, you know, go ahead and suggest it to our audience. So do you have anything to suggest today?
As far as horror movies, it's not quite, actually, no, take that back. Okay. Actually, I don't have any horror movie suggestions. It's been a while since I watched a horror film.
I feel like you did the whole Megan Thee Stallion like sound that she makes in her songs when you did that.
Megan the Pony, that's me. No, I'm brilliant. Okay, so okay, cut that out, Walt. Okay, so actually, okay, this is not horror related, but I did recently watch The Queen's Gambit, and that show is pretty amazing. I loved it. It was really good. It's the best show about chess ever. And yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. It's a good show. It's not all surrounding about chess. It's about a professional chess player, and she gets into drugs and alcohol and all types of trouble, and it's a solid show. So I highly recommend that, and I'll be back on my horror movie shit soon, because there's a few horror movies on my list I need to catch up on. So follow me at Meaganzworld to see my reviews on that.
Definitely. Which you guys could find her on Instagram, Twitter, you know, at Meaganzworld. And of course, you know, y'all can find me, Walterdoom, on Instagram, Walterdoom1 on Twitter. Oh my God, why am I getting so tongue-tied? It's so late. Let's start by saying it's late. So we're both like ready to sleep. But yeah, definitely follow me on there. And as you guys know, this has been another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. I'm going to try not to be so MIA for you guys. I know there's probably some people like, yo, Doom, where you been, man? Where you been? I wish I had an excuse, but I don't. You know, mental energy, holidays, people. I mean, hey, be safe out there because COVID is back on the rise again. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to get these vaccines out. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys believe in. I'm not going to push no agenda. Just be safe out there.
Just be safe in whatever way you can.
Right. But yeah, this has been another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. I will catch you guys next time. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Peace.